Previously on Marveling.
There's been rumors of The Eternals as a movie, Shang-Chi as a movie, the potential for Thor 4.
As we get into the present, Monica is going to be introduced in some capacity as Photon. I think Eternals is the only other one that has active casting.
Yeah.
So that would be my guess for the other movie in 2020.
Yep.
Now, I could spend 90 minutes talking about what we've done. Or I could spend some time talking about what we're about to do. Phase 4 of the MCU, and we're going to take you through all the projects we're working on from 2020 to 2021.
Welcome to a special bonus episode of Marveling.
Bonus.
I'm Courtney, and that's Tyler.
Yeah, that's me. It's your
That's
boy.
Tyler.
We are coming at you with a bonus episode because a whole bunch of crazy shit just was announced at San Diego Comic-Con.
You know, some exciting stuff. Just a couple things.
Yeah, just a few little nuggets.
Just a thing or two. Do we want to mention anything about the Russo brothers or Marcus McFeely's? Did you have any thoughts about their panels? I didn't get to see the Russo brothers. I haven't searched out a video or anything yet.
Nothing. The Russos were just kind of there thanking everyone, I think, for making them a lot of money. But the writers had an interesting panel where they were talking about sort of alternate avenues they were going to take some of the story beats in Infinity War and Endgame.
Yep.
They were talking about how when Thanos comes back in time, or forward in time at the end of Endgame, this is the 2014 Thanos. He was going to have brought the decapitated head of Captain America and
Jesus fucking Christ,
thrown it at the feet of the Avengers to just kind of demoralize them even more.
But, I mean, he would have been throwing it at Steve's feet himself.
Yes, yeah. Which I think would have been cool, but also was, I think, and they said would have been a little bit over the top and a little bit dark. A little darker than they maybe wanted to go.
Probably get them closer to an R rating than like a decapitated head is a little bit more intense than I think they've done in any of these Marvel movies.
Yeah, well, it definitely would have, like, I think.
Well, I mean, that's not true because they decapitated Thanos.
Well, yeah, so it would have been like, you decapitated me, I decapitated you, kind of.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
So I think it was smart to take that out, but it was just interesting to kind of see some of their process, but kind of behind the scenes, and how one of them had mentioned how they'll explore any idea, and then sort of through the revision process and just bouncing ideas back and forth, they'll refine ideas and drop ideas if they don't work. And so I think it was just interesting to hear that. One other thing. It was cool to see like their storyboarding and how they tracked the stones through all of the like Avengers history just to make sure that they like got it right, sort of thing. Yeah.
It was cool to like see those processes.
Yeah, and how they kind of were able to connect everything all the way back to the first Avengers, really, or even beyond that.
Even further than that, yeah.
And one other cool little bit like that they mentioned was how they originally were going to have Smart Hulk, or Professor Hulk as he's called. He was going to appear at the end of Infinity War, and he was going to bust out of the Hulkbuster armor at the end of the battle and kill what's his nuts?
What's his nuts?
the big guy. He's called the Black...
Call Obsidian?
Yeah, he's called the Black Dwarf in the comics. That's why I couldn't think of it.
Oh, yeah.
Call Obsidian and have a big battle on Wakanda, which I think would have been cool, but
I kind of like the way that he just like popped into Endgame more.
Yes, well, and it's a little bit more of a shock, not a shock, but a little bit more of a reveal when you see him in Endgame.
Right.
But there was a Funko leak before Infinity War that was a Funko Pop of Hulk busting out of the Hulkbuster, which I had seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I had seen before the movie came out. So I'm like, oh, fuck, like that's a cool thing. And I thought that it was spoiling Infinity War for me. So the whole time I'm watching Infinity War for the first time, and we're at the battle, and I know that he's in the Hulkbuster armor, I'm waiting for him to bust out, and then he never does. And I'm like, what the hell?
Well, and they also had those like scenes during the trailer of like the Hulk running with everyone in Wakanda, and that was just a fake out.
Well, but they had said that, I think all the way into post-production, that was going to happen.
Right.
And so that scene that you see in the trailer was, not everyone thought it was a misdirect after Infinity War came out, but I think it really was potentially a sequence from the movie if they had gone that direction.
Well, they're not too like shy about some of their misdirects, because I know some of the first Endgame trailers had those shots of them walking in their time suits, and they had digitally edited out Tony and Nebula for a little while.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I think they're conscious of not wanting to give too much away, especially in those bigger movies where people are looking for any hint as to what's happening.
You know what I freaking realized the other day? I was cleaning my Endgame cup that I got at the night that it came out at the movie theater, and Professor Hulk is on the cup, in his glasses and in clothes. And I was like, holy crap, I'm really glad I didn't look at this cup a little bit harder, because
well, and I
would have been hang on a second.
They're banking on you not seeing it in the dark theater, I guess, until you
get
home.
so.
I don't know. That's kind of crazy.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. When did I get this cup? Yeah, that's right. It was the opening night. Yeah. I was definitely oh. And we also have exciting news that my several times of going to see Avengers Endgame has pushed them over the edge.
Yes.
And
he
it's fine.
At the MCU panel, one of the first things that Feige said was that it wasn't 100% official, but that by the next day or so, it was.
Did you hear how they figured it out? I guess they were reconciling box offices, and they kind of just found a spare $2 million that they hadn't accounted for before.
Okay.
And decided to just hold on to it until Comic-Con, when they could be more sure that it was going to be surpassing it.
Yeah. Well, but
I was I wish I could just find a spare $2 million.
Yeah, just lying around somewhere in China or somewhere. The technically though, it still hasn't beaten, if you adjust Avatar for inflation. I think there's still a $7 million gap.
Ugh.
So, but officially it is the leader, but technically, if you want to get technical about it. And
they were definitely cutting it close to the edge, because it seemed like they were just going to keep it in theaters until it did it. But since it comes out on digital in 8 days from this recording, it was getting really, really close.
Well, and I mean, who's besides you is going to see it now?
Hey.
No,
I mean, some people might be really jazzed after all these announcements, and No, I think it's cool. I'm happy for him. I liked the image that James Cameron just released of Tony playing with his little avatar air
jellyfish
squids
or whatever those are.
Yeah.
James Cameron released an image or a statement, basically passing the baton to Marvel Studios.
He did it too when they beat Titanic. He had another image for that too.
Where Titanic was in half or something, and
right, which is a little okay, that's an actual tragedy.
Yeah, but it's a 100-year-old, almost 100-year-old tragedy at this point. So.
Oh, so now it's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's not too soon.
People are making 9/11 jokes 6 months after that. So.
That's true.
Not to bring it down too hard, but. So you want to dive
now.
You want to dive into the MCU panel?
Yes, because holy shit, we have so much to talk about.
Similar to the Phase 3 reveal, Kevin Feige sort of brought up a big board with all of the timeline of the next 2 years, basically the 2020 and 2021.
You and I texting each other were holy shit, 8 movies in next year. And it was
it had seven movies or 7 untitled MCU properties in 2021 alone, and everyone on Twitter was 7 movies in 1 year, how are they going to do that? But it turns out that those were including all the Disney Plus shows that were coming out that year too. So it's really only 3 movies, but
still exciting.
Well, yes, it is exciting, and having all those Disney Plus shows definitely is something to get excited about. But
there's going to be a lot of content.
Yes, to keep us fat
and happy.
Yes, fat and happy. So
fat.
They skip over the first date, which is in May next year. They leave that untitled. We all know what it is, but they skip over that because they have footage for that they're gonna show, not us, but the crowd in Hall H.
I know. I want to see it so bad.
It was not. I mean, the reports that I read online were that it was they've only been filming for a couple weeks, so it's unfinished effects and everything.
So did you see Jeremy Renner's, not to like get too far ahead, but did you see Jeremy Renner's post on Instagram about Hawkeye?
Mm-mm.
He has a post on Instagram, and it's not the intro. People are saying it could be the intro to the show, but it's not. It's like the reveal trailer for the Hawkeye show.
Oh, I did see that, where it's the graphic of the logo
Yes.
and then Kate Bishop is revealed. Spoiler
But
alert.
as soon as he like puts his phone up to record that, you can see like the dude walking over with a flashlight, like shining it to like try. And then he realizes who's recording it, and he's like, oh. But like when the panel was like happening, there were all these like live streamers that were trying to get away with it, who were just like getting like, I just watching on Reddit, just like, oh, this stream's down, like
well,
just slowly getting taken out.
The panel wasn't live streamed. We had to just follow people on Twitter tweeting like updates as they were coming out, and people were taking pictures and posting pictures on Twitter, but there was no video. Finally, the day after, Variety, I think it was, released almost the whole panel, but they took all of those animations out. They had animations when they released, when they had the logos, they would do some kind of flashy animation. That's the one that Jeremy Renner leaked. And all of those are cut out of there, which I don't understand. I understand not showing the Black Widow footage, but I don't understand why they can't show the After Effects animation of the logo. Like, there's nothing. It's
some kind of exclusivity for going to Comic-Con, I guess.
It was bizarre because the post that Jeremy Renner shared with the animation was cool, but it wasn't like this crazy it was just like some spinning text and then like some figures from the comics like popping up or whatever. It wasn't It wasn't anything too intense or whatever. So I don't know.
And I guess the Falcon Winter Soldier like bit was like a confirmation of Daniel Bruhl coming back, so that's a little bit more exciting.
Let's back up though. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Sorry, I know we're all over the place here because we're so excited. But let's start at the beginning. So Kevin Feige comes out and basically says, we can talk all day about what we have done, but we're here let's talk about what we're going to do and what's coming up. And everyone freaks out because they know what's coming. He reveals the timeline and then starts, as he names dates, reveals what those dates are, or what the titles are. First one is November 6, 2020, and The Eternals, which has been rumored for the last couple months, I feel like, because they've been doing casting. They've been doing casting, and it's definitely been like floating around for a while, but there's still there's rumors that Keanu Reeves is going to get attached to this. There's like some more rumors about like which characters were going to be involved, who was going to be who. It was all very still up in the air, but this was like our confirmation that like, yes, it's coming. Yes, and this is I don't know how familiar you are with the Eternals, but this is... I
know the basic like overview of the story. I haven't read any of it, but I know what they are and all that stuff.
This is Jack Kirby, 1970s Kirby, which is... He kind of goes a little bonkers, and basically Jack Kirby and Stan Lee are responsible for 90% of the Marvel Universe as we all know it. They created Fantastic Four, Avengers, X-Men. Steve Ditko created Spider-Man, but that's really about it. Everything else can be attributed to Jack Kirby's... He designed lots of the looks of all the characters. He designed and created Captain America in the 40s. So he's like... Everything is built on Jack Kirby's back, basically. He goes through and has some creative differences in the late 60s with Stan Lee and Marvel, and leaves Marvel, works at DC for a few years, and then in the mid-70s comes back to Marvel and is given basically free reign to do whatever he wants at this point. And
so he says, hold my beer.
Yes. So he comes back and does a run on Captain America that's pretty bonkers crazy. He does a run on Black Panther, which is bonkers crazy. And then he starts creating lots of cuckoo crazy things. Visually, they're amazing, stunning to look at, but they just... some of them can be kind of incoherent, and they're just lots of big ideas, and they're kind of all over the place. But the Eternals is one of those. And it's all about these people that don't know that there are these ancient aliens, basically, and it brings in a lot of that. I think in the 70s is when the Chariot of the Gods was big with the ancient aliens and Von Daniken and all of that crazy cuckoo stuff. So it uses some of that stuff to sort of weave that into the Marvel universe.
Well, and I feel like they've got a like kind of solid in with how they've established like Thor and Loki and the like Norse pantheon of gods in this universe.
Yeah.
Because a lot of like the Eternals and stuff are like, from everything that I know about the Eternals is like they're seen as gods just because like people back in like ancient times like with Thor and Loki and stuff, they didn't have a concept of like what a superhero was, so they're just like, oh yes, like this is a god.
Well, and they say, I think Kevin Feige, or they say in the panel, in the brief segment of the panel, they say that they're immortal aliens, I think is how they phrase it. But
eternal aliens, would you say?
I guess. But so I think the sort of the idea behind them is that they're humans, or they're not humans, but they're living human lives on Earth, and they've like lost their memories for some reason, and then they come back and sort of have an awakening and realize who they are, and they're gonna form this band of.
It reminds me a little bit of, there's a comic book series called The Wicked and the Divine.
Yeah.
That is all about like gods being reincarnated as humans on this earth and not really like kind of realizing who they are until they have their awakening. And that's kind of like what that whole announcement reminded me of.
Sure. Well, and I think I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's Karen Gillan, right? That wrote that series.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was influenced by the Eternals and Jack Kirby in general, just for that, big ideas like that. And I did have to wonder that it seems like the Eternals are going to sort of be a stand-in for the place that the Inhumans were originally going to take in the MCU.
Which pour one out for that one,
yes.
The Inhumans, because their like release date was supposed to be.
Yes,
like this month.
Well, but if you go back to the Phase 3 reveal, that was the end of Phase 3, was the Inhumans.
Right.
And that was going to be, I think, the point where they were going to set up a lot of the cosmic stuff that they teased at the end of Far From Home. And I think the Eternals is going to sort of take the torch from Inhumans and sort of fill that void, that whatever plan they had going back to the beginning of Phase 3 with the Inhumans, they're going to do that, I guess, because the Inhumans got sucked into the Marvel television world and got shit out. So.
Right. Which, like, also just holy shit, the casting that they've announced for the Eternals with, like, Selma Hayek and Angelina Jolie and Kumail Nanjiani and Richard Madden, who I'm really excited to see after Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
He was so dope.
Yeah, Rob Stark from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and I feel like he was like really hitting his prime, and then they, of course, had to kill him. So I'm excited to see like what he can do. It was a lot. It was a big list of very exciting names, and when they all came out on stage, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, and I can't think of the actress's name, but she's the first deaf character, or the deaf she's deaf in real life.
Oh yeah. And I can't remember her name
I'm
either. Of course,
right now.
We're bad people.
Lauren Ridloff, I think, is her name. So I just thought that was cool. They're definitely diversifying. Brian Tyree Henry is in it. He's from Atlanta, and he's the voice of Miles' dad in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And then Dong Seok Ma as Gilgamesh, who he's a big bruiser guy, and he was asked if he could take on the Hulk at the panel. And he was like, is Mark Ruffalo here? And they said no. And he's like, oh, then yeah, he could.
And I there's a very cool, like, a couple years ago, Kumail Nanjiani was at Comic-Con, and he was, like, an interviewer, and he got to interview Stan Lee, and how far he's come now to, like, be a part of the Marvel universe, which I love Kumail Nanjiani, like, a lot. So I'm excited to see him.
He's very funny, and, I think that's cool. He said at one point, too, during this weekend, that this was the best way for him to get jacked or something, because he wanted to become cast or to get cast in an MCU movie. They'll seriously get you on the right workout regimen. So
Yeah. I'm excited to see it, and I'm excited very much to see Angelina Jolie just because I've loved her ever since I was like a little girl. She's always been this amazing female powerhouse of an actress, so it'll be cool to have her in this universe.
Well, it's interesting to see because I've read a little bit of the Eternals, but I think they're not well known enough that like Cap people know, and if you do something drastically different with Cap, people are going to be annoyed. But I think there's a little bit more wiggle room with the Eternals to kind of tweak things, and there were some gender flips. I think in the comics, Selma Hayek's character is a man, and the little girl in that they cast is actually a little boy in the original run. So I like how they're kind of mixing things up that way and making it more like there's not just one female on this team. There's
right.
I think it's pretty split, if not more. I think is there 8 on the team, or how, I'm counting on my fingers here. How many fingers?
Well, and Kevin Feige had an interview after this panel where he was talking about once we get to the Thor 4 movie, he was talking about how Valkyrie is looking for her queen. So like we have a very openly like gay character in the MCU for like the first time, other than like a Russo brother in a self-help group.
Yeah.
But he was also saying that someone in the Eternals is going to be like kind of outspokenly like either lesbian or gay, which is also pretty cool. Just like starting to see like representation. And I think that's the sort of stuff that like wasn't something that they could do while Perlmutter was still around.
Well, and I think, they definitely built the foundation of the MCU on our favorite white men, but they're definitely they're building out now, and I like that they've taken some of the criticism that they've gotten for casting choices and focusing on just primarily white dudes, and it's cool to see that they're listening, I think. And
yes, it's definitely like, and to kind of jump a little bit for a second, but the man that they cast as Shang-Chi, which is Simu Liu, who has been like a little outspoken on Twitter for several years now about wanting to be Shang-Chi, like even before this movie was even happening. It's pretty cool.
All the way
like,
back to 2014 or something. He retweeted a bunch of those old tweets.
And he had a tweet about like, I love what you've done with like Cap and Black Panther and all this stuff, but how about a Chinese superhero? And then here he is as our Shang-Chi, which I think is awesome. And
we'll get to it when we get to that movie, but he was literally cast like days before this panel.
Right.
So,
right.
No, it's definitely exciting to see all the different representation coming from me, a white boy. So
and a white girl. Right? I'm so here for it.
So I think I'm excited to see the Eternals. I'm not going in with any preconceived notions. I'm going to revisit the a little bit of the Kirby run, and Neil Gaiman also had a run in the early 2000s, which is worth checking out. But I'm excited to see kind of where they're going to go with it all. So
right.
The only other thing maybe I'll touch on real quick is there is a possible tie, or definitely a slight tie to Guardians of the Galaxy. The Celestials are sort of these crazy gods that they're the ones who created the Eternals. They are shown in Guardians of the Galaxy when the Collector is talking about the Infinity Stones. They're like the giant people that are responsible for creating them too. And the head, where the planet that they go to, the mining planet or whatever, Nowhere, is is the head of a Celestial. Is what that planet is. So it's that I think at the time was sort of just an Easter eggy thing, but now they're kind of retroactively tying it to the bigger cosmic world, which I think
feel like
cool.
They threw a lot of Easter eggs into a lot of these movies, and now they're like, okay, we have that thread to tie back to really easily.
Yeah, well, and I don't necessarily believe that they from the beginning were going to do that. I think just now that all of these other movies have been so popular, they have a lot more more leeway and a lot more areas to explore and all that. So, Eternals 2020, I'm psyched.
I am too, but I'm also probably even more psyched for what comes next, which is our fall 2020 date. We don't have like an official release date yet. They kind of kept the Disney Plus shows close to the chest for right now, which...
Well, and I wonder if that's because...
Who knows why?
I wonder if it's because they're not going to like Netflix dump them all on you. I wonder if they're going to come week to week episode. Each
They might.
episode will come out each week or whatever. So
I mean, I think we'll have a pretty good concept of how they're going to do it once Disney Plus drops and The Mandalorian comes out. Because if they just dump Mandalorian all at once.
Don't even talk to me about The Mandalorian. I can't even.
I know. I know you're so excited. It's coming.
So,
but our first Disney Plus show is
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And the Winter Soldier. Sorry.
And the Winter Soldier.
Not Captain Falcon.
Nope. No, they did put in the Captain America shield in the new logo for it, which I gotta say, the new logo is pretty nice. And Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan came out with Anthony holding the shield, and it was beautiful. It was so nice. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, he let Sebastian Stan, or the Winter Soldier, he let him hold the shield for a minute, and then quickly.
And then he was like, "Nope, give me that back."
And then Jessica Chobot, the moderator of the panel, came and she wanted to hang on to it for him, I guess.
Yeah, but I was like, I knew that they were really good about bringing out a lot of the cast for some of these announcements, but I did not literally expect them to have Tom Hiddleston, Sebastian, I did not expect them to have Benedict, all of these people. It was aren't you guys really busy?
In the phase 3 one, they didn't bring out anyone until the end, right?
They just had Chris and RDJ at the very, very end when they announced Civil War.
And that wasn't at Comic-Con, so it wasn't as big of a spectacle or whatever. But
Phase 3 was at Comic-Con.
Phase 3 was announced at the El Capitan Theater. As part of something else. Yeah, it was just like a press event. It wasn't a Hall H panel. So
okay.
I think that they definitely they wanted to sort of show their wares, and
they literally had everyone. They had Chris Hemsworth. They had I was blown away as all of these people kept coming out.
And they had some surprise guests too, which we'll get to when we get to those movies. But so back to Falcon and Winter Soldier. I know that you're excited for this. How happy were you to see Baron Zemo confirmed?
I was really happy. That's been a rumor that's been going around for a little while, seeing if they could get Daniel Bruhl back, and I thought that would be just a really, really cool villain for them to have to deal with, especially with this is obviously going to probably deal with Sam becoming Cap, which has a couple things up the air, are they going to give him super serum? Is Steve going to be in this at all? Is there going to be any stuff just how it's going to play out?
Well, so I don't think Steve will be in it unless it's something that's already been filmed. Because Chris Evans is done, I think. Looking at the voice cast for the cartoon, which we'll get to, he was not on that list.
He's confirmed for it though.
He wasn't. They would have put his picture on that. When they originally
announced the show, he was confirmed for the first episode.
I don't. He's definitely not on the image that they showed for when What If came up. They showed an image or images of all of the people that were going to be voicing characters. And Chris Hemsworth was in there. Mark Ruffalo was in there. Jeremy Renner was in there. No RDJ and no Cap. So Cap is going to be. Someone's going to voice Cap. Cap is in, right. They're going to use him in there, but I really do think that he's retired. And maybe in a couple years down the line, they'll reel him back in with a big fat check. But at this point, he's not involved. And I'll get more into the voice cast, hinting at sort of other things when we get to What If. But I think this show is going to be kind of similar to Far From Home, where Peter Parker, Spider-Man, was sort of living in Tony's shadow. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier are going to be very much in Steve's shadow, and he's going to be a presence in the show. But I don't know if you're going to see him.
Right.
Unfortunately, I want to see him, but I don't. I think it's going to be about them moving on from Cap and sort of picking up some of the loose threads, like Baron Zemo, that's very connected to Cap and even to Iron Man, but.
And it's super, super connected to Bucky just based on what happened in Civil War. All of Baron Zemo's plan revolved around reactivating Bucky and using him against both Cap and Tony.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and in the panel, Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie are on the stage, and we don't get to see it because I haven't found any leaked footage anywhere, but Baron Zemo takes, or Daniel Bruhl like hacks into the feed at Comic-Con, and he appears on the screen and starts to recite the code words to activate Winter Soldier, and then makes a comment about how it doesn't work anymore, and he's gonna like twirls his mustache and says, "I'm coming for you," or whatever, and then
he apparently put on his mask.
Which that's what I want to see. I want to see what that mask looks like.
I've seen like some very basic descriptions of it, but not anything like substantial.
Yeah. Well, and in the comics, it's like a purple ski mask, and he has like a gold tiara on it. So I think they're not going to go that direction 100%, but obviously it'll be informed by that design. But yeah.
Right. Do you think, just like a quick thing, do you think that they're going to give Sam any super soldier serum, or do you think he's going to just figure it out without it?
I don't know. I think they've been a little fast and loose with the non-powered heroes in this world, and I think, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see them doing that, but I also wonder if that's going to be part of his story is about being Captain America, who really has no powers, but he's all of those ideals. He's all of Steve's willpower and his goodness and all of that, and that is ultimately the superpower. Not to be too cheesy or whatever,
I know, but I just wonder if he's not gonna be able to huck the shield like Steve can.
I don't know. He's holding the shield on the stage, so I mean
there's a difference between holding it and being able to throw it and not obey the laws of gravity with it.
Well, and there are other like elements to the shield that they hint at, I think, early on, where there's like electromagnets and stuff with the shield, being able to recall it. So I wonder if they're gonna. They
showed that in Age of Ultron and then ditched it pretty quickly.
Yeah, so that tech exists in the world. I wonder if they'll do something like that where
I think he's just gonna strap the shield to Red Wing and just fly it around.
Yes. Well, I think because he was suited up, and Tony augmented his suit even more with Redbird and all of that. But yeah, I don't know. I think I like the idea of him being more of a depowered hero.
Did you hear the interview that Anthony Mackie gave where he confirmed that he'd had his first like Cap costume test?
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see it.
Well, and I wonder if that is literally going to be the last episode or the last scene of the show, where it's going to be about him becoming Captain America, and then he's like similar to Smallville, where it's about Clark becoming Superman. He doesn't become Superman until the very end. I wonder if they're going to save that for the movie. That's what they did with the Daredevil show on Netflix, where he had a sort of a rudimentary costume, but he wasn't in his full Daredevil costume until the very last episode, and that's what sort of led you into the rest of the show.
I really hope they don't do that. I want to see him kicking ass the whole show.
Well, and that's sort of looking at the broad scope of Phase 4. There's a lot of loose threads where you're going to go a few years without seeing some of these characters again, which I don't love, but...
Yeah, it's interesting because this is going to be our first time having Disney Plus, and they've directly confirmed that WandaVision is going to tie into Doctor Strange, but like this one and Loki and Hawkeye, like we don't know how those are going to tie into the movies that follow them. So like it could be a very quick tie-in, or it could be something that we don't see for a while. So it'll be kind of like, because who knows, like Falcon and Winter Soldier could show up in Shang-Chi. They could go to China. Like, who knows, really?
Well, and I think definitely Falcon and Winter Soldier will show up in whatever the new Avengers movie that has been hinted at for Phase 5 will be.
They said that this is only half of Phase 4.
That's what I thought too, but then I watched a bunch of sound bites with Kevin Feige saying this is Phase 4. This is it. And that's what I thought going into this too. When we were talking, when they were announcing, I was thinking, oh, this is only the first half. Because I had also seen Feige had said that he didn't love the Phase 3 announcement. They announced everything. So I was thinking that they were going to hold some stuff back, but I really don't think they are. And this is, if you look at the amount of movies in each phase, there are 7 to 11 films. And including the Disney Plus shows, you've got 10 properties in this phase. It's just sped up because they're releasing a lot more every year.
I feel like Guardians 3 and Black Panther 2 and Captain, like I just don't feel like it'll go like I don't know. I know that they're going to be not till 2022, but
yeah,
that still feels like it could be a second part of phase 4.
Yeah, well, and we definitely were spoiled with the end of phase 3. You were getting Doctor Strange every year. You were getting Iron Man every year. You were getting Cap almost every year. You were getting these characters like every year, if not every year, every other year. I know I keep saying every year, but so I think that's something that like not seeing Spider-Man on here like broke my heart. I want to after Endgame and after Far From Home, I want to keep going. I want the next Spider-Man movie. I want a Spider-Man movie every year, or at least him in something in every year. But so I think that's maybe an adjustment that we're gonna have to do, and the Disney Plus shows are gonna fill a little bit of that void. But I still think you're not gonna see all the Guardians for a couple of years. You may not see Black Panther. You may not see Captain. Like, I wonder if you're gonna see some of those characters in some of these other movies, and maybe we can talk about that at the end. But let's wrap. Is there anything else for Falcon and the Winter Soldier that you
no,
were excited
not specifically.
All right, so what's next?
Shang-Chi
and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yep. So this is our February 12th, 2021. This is us getting into not next year, but the next year.
The next year.
The next year, which sees us coming back to the Ten Rings kind of organization. And we're going to be revisiting the Mandarin, because apparently that is still very much a real thing, a real person.
Yes. So how do you feel about this? Do you think that they made a big deal about saying that this has been seeded since Iron Man 1?
Yeah.
Ten Rings are the terrorist organization in Iron Man 1.
I think it's an interesting, like, it seems like they're trying to make like a modern Hydra a little bit.
Yes.
Like, instead of having, we've had the Ten Rings, we've seen them in Iron Man, blah, 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 and they're apparently around for a long time. So this could be like the second coming of another large organization that like is very Hydra-like, because Hydra is pretty succinctly gone at this point.
Well, and they're hints. So let's go back, just talk about the Ten Rings for a minute. You see them in Iron Man. They're the terrorist organization that captures Tony and forces him to become Iron Man. And then they're hinted at in some of the graphics in Iron Man 2. And I think the implication is that they help Vanko get to Tony.
Right.
And all of that. And then you see them briefly hinted at in Ant-Man. One of the Hydra agents in Ant-Man has a Ten Rings tattoo on his neck or something.
Yeah, which they made a point of bringing up again during this panel.
Yes, which I think, again, maybe, because now and actually that's after Hail to the King, right?
Right.
So Hail to the King is where they really, I think, start to lay the groundwork. That's in 2013, I think, right after Iron Man 3. It's sort of a short film post Iron Man 3, following the fake Mandarin who was in Iron Man 3, Trevor Slattery, and he's in jail, and he's broken out by the Ten Rings in that little short. So, and that's where you see that he talks about how they're defunct and all this stuff. And I do think that they're going to be coming back around, and that they will be sort of the Earth-based big bad for the next phase 4 into phase 5 even, which I think could be cool. I don't know. I don't buy it when they say that they have been seeding this since the beginning. I think in Iron Man 1 it was very much just an Easter egg to the Mandarin, who was an Iron Man villain in the comics, and that was a way to sort of work him in, because in the comics Tony is in Vietnam or Korea, or no, he's in Korea, I believe. And so the Mandarin is tied in to his origin that way, because he's it takes place during the Korean War or whatever. So they weren't going to do that in Iron Man 1, because they wanted it to be Afghanistan more timely to what was going on
in 2008. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. I know I'm splitting hairs, but I just think that they're good. The MCU and Marvel Studios have knocked everything out of the park for the most part, but I don't know if I can give them that much credit that they were doing that all the way at the beginning. I think, like you said, they planted Easter eggs and then now they're like, oh, we have this here. Like they're plucking those out, and like similar to Mysterio. Spoiler alert for Far From Home. He's tied into Civil War, and they're using elements from the past to tie things together. And Mysterio or Jake Gyllenhaal wasn't at the conference at Civil War. He was not tied into that at all. So at the time,
he could have been.
Well, he could have been, but he wasn't.
He could have been, but he wasn't.
But let's talk about Simu Liu, because I think you hinted, we touched on it with the Twitter a little bit, and I think just he came out and they announced him as the Mandarin, and he just
not the Mandarin, he's Shang-Chi.
Yes, sorry. He came out and was super excited to be cast. He
already seems amazing. He just seems like he has like a really, really good personality, and he seems to like fit in with everybody else really, really well already.
Yeah.
Just based on what like the other cast members and people have said afterwards, and just all of his reactions on Twitter and all the things that he's been tweeting lately, he just seems like a fun guy. I don't know.
Well, and you could take like because he was basically calling Marvel out for years, like you said,
right?
And you could see if Marvel Studios was more of a petty organization, they might turn their nose up at him and say like, okay, like calm down, because he was basically he wasn't like shitting on them, but he was telling them. He was just giving them
a little like, hey, there you could have more representation. You could.
Yeah. But so I think that was cool that they cast him and were.
Well, the kind of exciting thing about Shang-Chi, which is also the exciting thing about like the Eternals, is that he's not, again, one of Marvel's like biggest, most popular properties. So they really have like more room to play and either make him as like fun and bonkers as they want, or create kind of whatever tone they want to with this movie.
To touch on, and they're going for different flavors, even more so I think even in this phase. They have the horror movie with Doctor Strange. They're going to do the espionage stuff with Black Widow and Falcon and Winter Soldier. And this is going to be that martial arts movie, I think, which they haven't never done. The Shang-Chi was introduced in the early 70s as just a kung fu character, basically. And pretty stereotypical. He was created by Jim Starlin, who created Thanos and Drax and Gamora, and wrote a lot of those cosmic characters in the 70s, which I just thought was kind of interesting. But it definitely was. If you read those comics now, they're a little bit more dated. There's a character in it called Fu Manchu, and it's just
yes. I think I read when I was like trying to look this up that he's like the son of Dr. Fu Manchu or something ridiculous like that.
Who was a Golden Age character, and at the time there was a lot of xenophobia towards Asian people, and that comes through in that character a lot. So, and I think I don't know if they've said it, I think they interviewed Jim Starlin, and he said, I hope they don't go anywhere near Fu Manchu, because he was not not proud of that piece of the storyline or whatever.
Well, just like the very basis that like the whole fact of this movie being like an Asian actor and a whole Asian theme, like China and all those markets already carry a ton of weight for these Marvel movies. Like those markets are already huge and they love seeing this. So imagine how much bigger a movie like this is going to be for them.
Well, and that's why ultimately that's why the box office numbers have gone up so much since Avengers, because previous to that, these films weren't shown in China and those markets. So that relationship with the studios and with the Chinese government, like because they're very censorship heavy, that's really what shifted the tide to making all of these movies make so much money. So I think whether this movie lands with the American audiences, it's going to land, I think, with those Asian markets. So
I'm just expecting, like, I don't know, in my head I'm seeing amazing stuff like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like just that kind of vibe for this, and I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Well, and I don't think he has powers, if I remember correctly. I think he's just a badass kung fu dude in the comics.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they're going to, because he was never really tied in with the Mandarin in the comics. The Mandarin has these 10 alien rings. That's how he gets his power. So I wonder if there's going to be some of that where there's like power ring. I mean, obviously there's the 10 rings that the Mandarin has, but I wonder if there's going to be some other like powerful artifacts and things similar to the Infinity Stone. Not maybe as powerful, but just that idea that there are these other powerful elements out there.
For sure. No, I'm excited to see what they do with it, and just excited, period, for all of this diversity. And we didn't even mention it, but just like this is our going to be the second director so the Eternals is being directed by a woman named Chloe Zhao, and then Shang-Chi is being directed by I think his name is Daniel.
It's Destin something.
It's Daniel Cretton.
Yes. Cretin.
Who's also an Asian director. It's just like they're starting to include
I think
diversity.
I think he's Maori. He's from Hawaii, so he's Maori. But
that's an Asian, Pacific Asian sort of thing, is it not?
I guess. I don't know.
But even like, and Taika Waititi, like it's just they're showing diversity not just in their casting, but like directors like this don't get big build movies in the rest of Hollywood. Like this is huge steps for all of these guys too.
Well, and I mean, if you look at sort of the directors in Phase 2 and Phase 3 of the MCU, they are not. You're losing your Jon Favreau's. You're losing your Joss Whedon's after Age of Ultron. Like they're. Right. I think they're going more with you're not using Edgar Wright for these movies because you want someone who has a cool voice, but who also doesn't have any clout to basically say to turn you down. And looking at all the directors, it was cool to see the diversity, but I don't see the Russo brothers in there. You don't see some of those bigger voices, I guess, which could be a good thing, could be a bad. I don't know. I just think it leads back to Kevin Feige and his crew being the overlords of this whole thing, which is what it has been this whole time. They threw
Taika Waititi like a shot in the dark to try and do Thor Ragnarok, and it turned out incredible.
Sure. So, no, I'm not saying any of these won't work. I just think like the Captain Marvel directors were no-name people, and they did a serviceable job, but that movie didn't wow me. But you have Ryan Coogler with Black Panther, and he's definitely a singular voice, and I'm excited to see kind of where that goes. But again, he's not in this crop of directors. Right. So I think we're both. What are we not excited for?
I know. I'm excited for everything.
I'm excited to see again the potential for where this could go.
This is just another movie like The Eternals that I'm not going to go into it with any kind of preconceived notions, and I don't have real attachments to Shang-Chi as a character because I've not read his stuff, which I don't know. It could be a point against me, could be a point for the better, but I'm excited to see where they take these in regards to this universe. Yeah, well, and I think they're going to make it their own, and they're going to tie it in with the Mandarin and all of that into sort of the greater scope. But so from that we go back to Disney Plus, spring 2021, and we get WandaVision. Which they quickly after this announcement, they started talking about Doctor Strange, and they said that this is going to be a very direct tie-in to Doctor Strange. Yes, which is exciting to talk about once we get to it. I think, and they quickly when they brought out Lizzie Olsen and Paul Bettany. Are you good friends with her? Yeah, no, that's how Kevin Feige said her. That's how Kevin Feige said her name. So Lizzie Olsen. Yes, he's very good friends with her. So yeah, he signs her checks, dude. He does. So they come out. Scarlet Witch and the Vision come out. I know that there was some question if Vision was even going to be in this show, and I think at one point they had said that it was going to take place in the 50s or be 50s, 40s vibe set or whatever. But they quickly say this takes place after Endgame. So but apparently the tease seemed to be some kind of 1950s tease, and the logo had that look. I think that this movie leading into Doctor Strange, this is where you're going to start to see, maybe it doesn't happen till the end, but this is
where something's going to happen with the multiverse.
Right.
She's going to use her powers to basically try to rebuild Vision, and it's going to destroy or damage the multiverse, and that's the lead into
Paul
Doctor
Bettany's
Strange.
whole little cheeky thing was that he doesn't even know how Vision's alive.
Yes.
Which was hilarious. And then
and I don't know. We don't know if he even really. I think all we see of Vision in this show could potentially just be Scarlet Witch creating, or it's like not a figment of her imagination, but essentially it's a construct that she's created.
Right.
And because just to jump ahead to Doctor Strange for 1 second, it was telling that, or to me at least, that Vision is not in this movie. Scarlet Witch is in Doctor Strange, but Vision is not.
Right.
And I feel like if Vision was coming back in this, they would sort of be a package deal. Obviously, unless there may be some rift between them or whatever. But I just think that she's going to do something to break the multiverse in her efforts to bring Vision back, potentially bring Quicksilver back, maybe. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm a little on the fence about that, just because I don't know if it's due to time constraints in these movies, but I feel like Quicksilver died in Age of Ultron, and Wanda has never thought about him again. But or at least she's never mentioned him again.
To be fair, she hasn't got a whole lot of screen time. All of the screen time has been devoted to her relationship with Vision and with Hawkeye to a certain extent.
She had some time in like Civil War with like just her and Vision. You think they could have like maybe talked a little bit about it, or it's just, I don't think she mentions his name or even talks about having a brother like after Age of Ultron. Like I cannot think of one example of her doing that.
Yeah. She has the conversation with Hawkeye at the end of Endgame where they're talking about the people that they've lost and sort of living up to that. She really only says she's Vision. Talking about, I know, and that's what it is. But I mean, you could kind of work him into there a little bit in that, because they never specifically say. But I don't know. I think that would, if they were going to do it, that obviously would be a good way.
Some of the like theories going around on the internet is that this might be their chance for her to pull them to work in mutants in the way of this universe, now that they have access to it, and have Wanda do a reverse House of M, and instead of like taking away all the powers from the mutants, throwing powers out into the universe and creating a lot of mutants, which could be the ramifications that Doctor Strange is dealing with in the movie that comes directly after this. They did say that this is going to be the weirdest thing that Marvel has done so far.
She just kept saying how it was going to get weird or whatever.
It was going to get weird, and we're finally going to understand Wanda as a Scarlet Witch, and it's just, it's very like ambiguous, and a lot of people I think freaked out about her being in Doctor Strange and having a Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch like team up and stuff, and it's like, no, I think like Scarlet Witch might be the villain like that Doctor Strange is dealing with.
I don't know. I think they definitely could go.
And some people were talking about how if she's creating a bunch of multiverses, she could pull in her brother from another multiverse, and that brother would have been like Magneto's son, like to try and get that tie-in in. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so much.
I think I would be fine with her pulling alternate Quicksilvers and alternate Visions out of the multiverse. I don't know if a Disney Plus show is the place to fully bring in the mutants. I think you can use the rift that she creates and then is explored in Doctor Strange 2, and I think even further on into some of these other movies, you could use that as the point, but I think that's got to be a bigger event. I don't know. Yeah,
it's the questionable thing about these shows, and the thing about shows in general as compared to movies, is that a long form TV show, even if it is like a 6-episode series, has just more time to explore a lot of different concepts and feelings that you could not get out of a 2-hour movie, which is why a lot of things fell by the wayside, like her mourning over Pietro at all, or giving half of a shit about having a twin. But so it's going to be interesting to see exactly how bananas she's going to be going in WandaVision.
Well, and I think it would be cool if they went the whole villain route with her. I don't know necessarily if that's going to be the case.
I don't know. I don't think that she's going to like go full villain in like a way that I just feel like it's going to get out of her control.
Well,
like
yeah,
she's
and
going to be doing what she's doing to try and get something back that she's super lost, and then she's just going to like lose it and have caused rifts all over the place or something.
Sure. No, I definitely think she maybe is going to lose her mind a little bit, and
yeah.
But I think it's interesting to see how they're going to set her up, and I think like they said, they're going to go full Scarlet Witch, and I wouldn't be surprised if she was in more of a Scarlet Witchy comic or a costume. They've always sort of downplayed that in the movies, and
well, now they can finally call her Scarlet Witch.
yeah, I don't think they just call her Wanda in all the movies, right?
Yeah, they weren't allowed to call her Scarlet Witch because Fox still owned all the mutant stuff, but now they can call her Scarlet Witch.
Did they call Quicksilver in Age of Ultron?
Nope.
Really?
He's just Pietro. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely again a lot of potential. I do think you're going to see the multiverse in this show.
My multiverse.
And if it's not the whole show, I think it's gonna whatever she's doing in the show is gonna at the end is gonna backfire, and that's what's gonna cause a rift or something is gonna happen.
Right. But before we get into Doctor Strange, there's one more show. One
last thing, sorry. We do and I called it, not to pat myself on the back, but we get another casting announcement for WandaVision. Teyonah Parris was cast as Photon, and she's the adult Monica Rambeau. She comes out on stage, super excited. So she's going to be introduced in this show as the adult Monica Rambeau, and I think they call her Photon in the panel, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
I think they did, but I thought I heard that, and then I also haven't been able to like read it anywhere, like confirming it too. So
there's so much news coming out of all of this that there's a lot of things I think that get left by the wayside. But I think I'm interested to see how they work her in. And it sounds like she's not even going to be connected to Captain Marvel as far as how she gets brought into this world with Scarlet Witch and Vision.
Right.
And they potentially could be setting up West Coast Avengers with them, because both Scarlet Witch and Vision were members of the West Coast Avengers, and so was Captain Marvel, Photon. So, I think I'm excited to see them adding another hero to the roster.
And so I can't remember. Did they talk about Doctor Strange right after? Did they talk about Loki?
No, they talk about Loki.
Yes. So also in spring 2021 we already knew that Loki was coming, but we had another look at everybody's favorite shitty Asgardian. And they brought Tom Hiddleston out, and I think he made mention about how last time he was on that stage, he was trying to force Kevin Feige to kneel. But so this Loki, they've confirmed, is the Loki that took the Tesseract in Endgame, and is very much villain Loki. And he's going to be, doing Loki things. Yes, yeah,
he's jumping around through time. He has the Tesseract or the Space Stone. So he's going to be using that to... And I've seen some images of like him in New York in the 70s, and so you're going to see him potentially influencing world events, I think is what they hinted at, or maybe it was leaked somewhere. And I think this also is going to be his lead-in back to our universe, where whatever happens in WandaVision, he's going to slip through a multiverse crack, and he's going to come back, or at some point is going to come back to our world.
Right.
Because I think the Space Stone just doesn't get him to another multiverse or another universe. It just gets him, he can just move around space.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see kind of where that goes. And I think they've said that, I don't know, I think if you look at the logo, the ugliest of all the
hideous logo.
But it's got, I think it's basically Loki with 4 different, not fonts, but different title treatments for each letter. And I wonder if you're going to get multiple Lokis. If he is going in the multiverse, if you're going to see different versions of him throughout, and him confronting different versions maybe, or flashes to different ones. I don't know. I just thought that after looking at that hideous logo for too long, I noticing the different letter treatments, I wondered if that was sort of a hint to that, where you're going to get different variations of him maybe.
Right. And this was also like our full confirmation that like the Loki that died in Endgame is like 100% gone.
Yes. Well, and they were, after Infinity War, when they said Loki, they were a little cagey about what the show was going to be, and I think they made it sound like a totally like a younger person was going to be cast as Loki, and it was going to be like him as a child or something. And in the comics, Loki comes back as a kid and is part of the Young Avengers, and he's not a villain, but he's like kind of a mischievous little guy or whatever. So they were sort of hinting at that, but it definitely seems like this is all Tom Hiddleston all the time.
Right.
With the show.
If they tried to cast anyone else as Loki, like I would hate it. Like,
yeah,
I'm
well,
glad
I think
that they're
it was
not
very
doing
specifically going to be like him as a tween or whatever. So
Right.
I don't know. I am excited to see again kind of how they're going to weave him back, because I definitely think they're going to work him back in somehow, or he's going to be responsible for some Loki mischievous shit or whatever. So
right. Yeah,
right,
and
so. Oh, sorry.
It's going to be interesting. Like, I'm presuming that this is going to come out spring, like maybe after Doctor Strange comes out, but they didn't give us like very good timing on exactly when to expect these things. So it could come out same time as WandaVision, and so he could like tie into that multiverse bananas bullshit. Who knows? Well,
and I think Doctor Strange is going to maybe fix whatever the issue is with the multiverse, but the multiverse isn't going anywhere. I think it's going to be around, and maybe they're going to learn how to harness it or something and be able to.
Maybe there's a Mysterio in another multiverse that has powers, and he's going to come out. But so let's talk about.
He's a hero. He's going to come back.
He is a hero. So let's talk about my boy, Doctor Strange.
I don't really have anything to say about Doctor Strange, so I think we can just move on.
So much to say about Doctor Strange. Leave me alone. This was the first returning director that they announced, because this is Scott Derrickson, who did Doctor Strange 1, coming back for this, which I think is really exciting. But so we get this on May 7th, 2021. Can't wait.
Can't come soon enough.
And it's going to be a very direct tie-in to WandaVision, like we've already said. And they really made strides to say that this is going to be the MCU's very first, like, horror-ish or like scary kind of movie while retaining their PG-13 rating. Yeah. Which the original Doctor Strange had crazy fucking visuals, period. Like it was a very beautifully done movie. So just imagining
more psychedelic.
Imagining that kind of imagery and that kind of vibe, but with like horror sort of vibes is like such a cool concept. I'm so excited.
Well, and I think the title, did you say the title?
I didn't. It's the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
So, and they've said that this is going to be Doctor Strange sort of deconstructed and sort of torn apart and rebuilt. I think they're going to break him down, and he's going to be... I wonder if he's going to go into the multiverse, try to fix something, and then he's going to get trapped there or something. Like, a bunch of crazy shit is going to happen, I think, with him.
Benedict did kind of like nudge in, though, and said that they want to try and like preserve some of the humor of the first Doctor Strange, which I do hope that they get some of like dark humor and keep kind of his tone. Doctor Strange is like a campy superhero, and it's all going to be a little bit campy, but it is definitely going to be exciting to see the kind of like gothic horror take on whatever happens in WandaVision that affects this. That's
why I wonder if Wanda is going in with him, and it's similar to like Black Widow in Winter Soldier, that she's going to play off of Strange, and they're going to kind of go on this adventure together. Because that's one thing that a lot of the sequels do well, is they bring secondary and they bring other characters in to play off of the main characters. So I think and whether maybe they have a contentious relationship because this was her fault or whatnot. But I think it'll be interesting if that is sort of the route they go, that they're going to sort of team up, and because her powers have never been super well defined in the movies, but she is sort of a magic based character,
right? And there's also
in the comics.
Like Doctor Strange was a part of the group that like was on Titan, so Doctor Strange's interaction with most of the other Avengers has been super, super minimal. So who knows how much he knows about Wanda or how much he's interacted with her before this? Like,
well, if you go, so I started to rewatched a little bit of Ragnarok this morning, just going off of the Thor announcement. I wanted to rewatch that, and he's in that, and he very clearly is aware of Odin, aware of Loki.
Yes.
Like, I think he maybe hasn't interacted with a lot of them, but it's his business to sort of know what's going on Earth, and I think he's aware of Wanda. If he hasn't interacted with her very much,
right? Which I wonder too. They didn't say anything about Mordo, but Mordo in the first movie was obviously like going and taking back power from people who he felt were using it incorrectly or didn't deserve it. And I wonder, like, with the concept of magic in this universe and what Scarlet Witch technically is, and if that's technically magic, like, if we could see, like, a Mordo tie-in trying to take her powers from her, you know, just, like, that kind of whole thing.
Well, and maybe Mordo is in WandaVision, and that is something happens, and that leads you into.
Oh my God! If Wanda is doing this shit to bring Vision back, and Mordo is like,
yeah, I mean that could be cool. So because I do, and I wonder the other direction they could go with it is all of this is happening. Doctor Strange has to clean up Wanda's mess, and then Mordo is in the background doing something else, making something making it worse, or he's causing some other issue. I do think it's interesting, the title. I want to touch on that for a moment. What did you think of the title when you first heard it? It
just feels like it's super campy and just feels very like right for Doctor Strange. I think it's cool.
No, I think it's cool. It's definitely, it was a little bit of a mouthful when I saw it flash on the screen. The Doctor Strange logo was tiny, and then it said in the Multiverse of Madness underneath it. The
abbreviations for it already across the internet are like so funny. just the like initials of it are like "Decit Mom," and it's like, okay, great.
I do think it's kind of interesting not to deconstruct the title too much, but in the 90s there was a film called In the Mouth of Madness. Yeah, it's a John Carpenter movie. And it was about John Carpenter did The Thing, Halloween, Escape from New York, probably one of my favorite directors of all time. In the Mouth of Madness.
Snake Plissken is going to be in this movie?
So maybe he's coming in for the multiverse, so who knows?
He might be.
So In the Mouth of Madness, early 90s. I personally, John Carpenter's last great film. He kind of goes off the rails the late 90s and into now, but it's about Sam Neill he's like I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but he's like a private detective or something, and he's going to the small town to get the last manuscript of this reclusive author. He's the Stephen King like author named Sutter Kane. And he's going to this small town to retrieve the elusive manuscript. And he goes to this small town, and it's basically like similar to Derry in Stephen King books. It's the town where all of the events in his books take place. And it's basically stuck in a time loop where all of the events of the books are happening in the town, and he can't escape. He gets basically stuck in this town, and he ends up going crazy because he's stuck in this time loop, and all of the horror movies or the stories from the horror novels are taking place in this town.
Holy shit.
So I think that the title is trying to evoke some of that sort of. Obviously, it's going to be a different route. They're broadening the scope with the multiverse and all that, and it's obviously there's not going to be a Stephen King like author in this or anything like that. But I think that just thematically, the idea that all of this stuff is happening to you and the toll that it takes, and sort of
sure,
because it's about sort of going down the rabbit hole and you losing your mind because of it. And I think that is going to be sort of the main theme of this Doctor Strange movie. So
and there's also going to be like a giant element to this, because the Sorcerer Supreme has been like the guardian of the Time Stone for forever, and this is going to be the first movie with the Sorcerer Supreme in it that doesn't have a Time Stone.
Yes.
And kind of how they're going to keep Earth safe and all of this without these powers that they've had for centuries and centuries is going to be really interesting too, I think, for him.
He still has his sling ring though, doesn't he?
He still has a sling ring, but like that.
No, I know. That's the all. I think that's what a lot of these movies are going to be about. Is what is the world like now that these
Infinity Stones
aren't around to sort of keep the balance or whatever. So.
And he totally let Thanos just like disintegrate the Eye of Agamotto. So that's also just period gone. Can't hold anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see, and I am just bananas over Doctor Strange. So I'm excited too that we're not having to wait until 2022, like some people were saying for a little while.
Yeah. No, it's cool that this is definitely the big returning character that's going to sort of set I think the multiverse, as you look at this slate with WandaVision, with Loki, with this movie, with What If, the show we'll talk about next, I think those are all going to be pretty multiverse heavy.
Yes, for sure.
And that's going to be a big theme of all of the events that kind of take place over these movies. So. Yeah.
So as you just said, the next show that they announced in summer 2021 is the What If show, which is our very first animated Marvel Cinematic Universe show or thing, which is basically they're going to figure out a lot of hypothetical situations. One of the ones that they referenced when they first announced this was what if Peggy got the super soldier serum instead of Cap?
Yeah. And I think they've said that Howard is going to be Iron Man in that.
Yep. And I think there was another one that was like a idea of like it was something else about Bucky and Steve surviving World War II, but it's basically just all of these things that could have happened. It's much more like you have comic series that break off of the mold and do like crazy shit. Like this is their chance to like do that.
Yeah. Well, in the 70s, this was a comic book series called What If that was taking some of those events. What if Uncle Ben hadn't died? What if the Phoenix hadn't? It was a lot of people who died, but what if Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four? And kind of following these, there was sort of one moment or one instance, and you change that. How does that moving forward? How does that sort of change the landscape of things? So, I think this is definitely going to tie us back to the multiverse. You're going to see alternate versions of all these characters. And one of the reasons that I personally wasn't excited about seeing the multiverse was because I knew that I wasn't going to see alternate Chris Evans, alternate RDJ in some of these scenes. But the cartoons kind of let you skirt that, and you're going to see Iron Man, you're going to see Cap. They may not be voiced by them. I don't think that Chris Evans is. I will literally give you $20 if Chris Evans voices.
I feel like they could just write him a big enough check to have him come back and do a couple days of voice lines.
I think let's go into this. When they announced the show, they announced like Sebastian Stan's going to be in it, and Neil McDonough, who is Dum Dum Dugan, who is one of the Howling Commandos. Like it just feels like there's going to be such Cap heavy sections. I know, but Chris Hemsworth is revealed here. Natalie Portman was revealed, which going back, I was kind of surprised that they revealed her here because we haven't gotten to the Thor, but that's where she's revealed to be coming back, and I think that's a little telling that she's coming back for an animated thing when she wants nothing to do with the Marvel Studios. But
they also have Dominic Cooper as Howard Stark instead of
Haley Atwell as Peg. So no, I'm not saying there's not going to be Cap centric.
No, I'm just saying. I was saying Dominic Cooper instead of John Slattery is kind of like interesting.
Well, and I think that gets because you're in your 40s, Howard, not 60s,
Right.
70s, 80s, Howard. I do think it's fun. Did you see Dominic Cooper was interviewed this weekend, and they asked him...
And he was like wondering why he wasn't in Endgame.
Yeah, he's like, and he was like being so... He was a little jokey about it, but he was like being kind of belligerent to the interviewer.
Right.
And it was like, oh, I haven't seen Endgame. Why wasn't I in it? But like...
Oh my God.
So, I don't know. I think...
But we've also, we're kind of skipping over, like, one of the very, very cool things about this whole show is the fact that Jeffrey Wright has been announced as the Watcher.
Yeah.
Which Jeffrey Wright is, like, legendary, so that's amazing.
Yeah. No, I think, and so basically the Watcher is in there. You see the Watchers in the end of Guardians 2 as an Easter egg with Stan Lee, but the Watcher is this character that he's like this celestial being that lives on the moon, and he just watches all of the events that take place on Earth. And
The Watcher watches?
That's his job, is just to watch. And he was the narrator of the What If storyline, or the What If comics, where he would say, like, he would be the lead into the storyline, and he would sort of recap what had happened, and then say, well, what if it went a different way, and then that leads you into the story or whatever. So
he's the Bran Stark of the MCU?
Yes. No, he's going to be the crypt keeper of the story, where I do think he's going to bookend these, where you'll get him in the beginning and the end and maybe something in the middle, but it's going to be, he's going to be the one sort of narrating the events, which will be cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be just a cool, like, fun show, and like Kevin Feige said, it's just really their chance to go, like, kind of bonkers with everything, is just really do whatever they want to do. So I think that'll be exciting.
Yeah, well, and it's gonna link. I do think it's gonna link us all back into the multiverse, and that what you see in the cartoons are gonna be these alternate reality, or these alternate versions of Earth. One of them that you see in the logo, that someone zoomed in on Reddit or somewhere on the logo, because it's similar to the Marvel Studios logo. The What If logo has like the border, the red border around it, and there are comic panels sort of embedded in the background. And one of them you can see is a zombie cap, I think.
Oh, shit.
So you're going to see, I think, in this show, the Marvel Zombies storyline as one of the episodes. That's an alternate Earth where most of the Marvel heroes have been turned into zombies, so they're all undead. They all have their powers, but they're zombies running around. And
oh my God.
Yeah. So it was a little crazy, but I think this is a way to reference that and explore that a little bit without doing, like, I couldn't see that as a whole MCU movie.
Right.
Because it's a little hammy and whatever, but I think this is a way to reference that, and it will be interesting to see where they take it.
Yes. And then the next thing on our slate is the finally confirmed Hawkeye show on Disney Plus.
You didn't believe me.
I believed you, but I told you it wasn't officially confirmed, and this is when they officially confirmed it.
Well, I think I officially confirmed it.
You did not officially confirm it. I don't think your name is Kevin.
No, but I told you it was happening, and hey, look, it's happening.
Oh my God. So we had Jeremy run out through the audience to the stage.
Yeah, I thought that. Did you see someone like made a gif of him running out, and he like bumps into a security officer,
the security guard,
and then he bows to the security guard, and then he smirks when he runs away.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
And this is also just in the short little teaser that they had of this, as we talked about before. They confirmed Kate Bishop, who will probably be our next Hawkeye.
Yes.
And in their like talking about it, they confirmed that this is going to look at some of his time as Ronin, which we got a little bit of in Endgame, but I think we'll get to follow him a little bit more.
No, I think that's smart to, and you can do that and explore that without having to. He's not going to run into Falcon, or obviously he wouldn't run into Falcon because he's dusted, but he wouldn't run into War Machine or any of those other heroes. He's definitely off on his own, but you can see the post snapped world, and I think that there's definitely a lot to be mined from that 5-year run. And I wonder do you think that those will be flashbacks and the Kate Bishop stuff will be in the present, or
I don't
do
know.
you think that he's training her in the past? Because
I feel like if they try to make him like training someone underneath him while he's running around like destroying Yakuza as Ronin is kind of like a little weird.
Sure. Well, but you also, I mean, that could be year 2 is him training Kate Bishop, and year 5 is him.
Right.
Something breaks, and I don't know. I think because the title treatment that we touched on earlier that they had on the screen behind him to introduce the segment. That was from the mid 2010s Hawkeye series by Matt Fraction, where it's Clint training Kate Bishop. They're obviously going to use that as some of the source material. So and that storyline is Clint by himself, because I don't even think he has a family in the comics, but he lives in an apartment building and deals with some like low-level thugs, and it's very more street level, and then is training her sort of on the side. I think him training her away from his family makes more sense than him being, now that he has his family back.
Right, because that was the whole speculation of Endgame, is if his daughter was going to become the Kate Bishop-like character.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it could go either way. I feel like he could get through all the events of Endgame and the snap and then feel like more comfortable passing on the mantle a little bit more.
Yeah, well, and that's definitely what they've said, is that he's passing it on. So I think if that's the sort of the what he's doing it under, that assumption or whatever, that this is his last hurrah, he's going to pass on everything he knows and then he's going to retire. I think that makes sense. Because I do think he's a little too dark in, like you said, in those sequences for that to fit.
I have to listen to it again, but like one of the websites that I'm referencing right now for some of this info too is saying that they said that this show is primarily going to be set post Endgame.
Did they say? I was looking to see, and I couldn't get confirmation because I don't know if they had said that in the main panel.
I'd have to listen to it again, but I do know that they said that it's going to explore some of his time as Ronin. I don't know how much, and who knows if Kate Bishop will be like in that time as well. But I feel like they don't want to spend too much time with this stuff, like rehashing before Endgame. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, and maybe there's some element of him like doing something like with the Yakuza where he's going through, and that leads them into the present where that comes back to bite him or something. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's kind of tough to like. There's so much that's happening ahead of this too, like that. Who knows how that's going to influence whatever happens in Hawkeye? You know.
Sure. Well, and I don't even know if all of that
if
is set in
will
stone.
touch it or exactly.
Well, I think they're still developing it all, so.
Right.
I'll write up a treatment to.
Okay, just send it their way, because I'm sure they've been waiting for your call.
Yeah.
And so then they moved on to the already confirmed Thor 4.
Thor
4.
There was some. I think it was a fan made logo or whatever, but it had it just said Thor and the H was a 4.
Yep. Which is actually like a pretty big thing, because so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we've had like trilogies of movies centered around characters, but this is our 4th Thor movie.
Yeah.
Is 4 Thor and 7 years ago. So this was exciting, and we got to see Taika Waititi, and we got an actual title of this movie, which is the dopest title.
I think it's very fitting for definitely the aesthetic that they've established in Ragnarok, and kind of how they've reworked Thor. So do you want to say the title? You want to say it in unison?
Well, or you can try. This is Thor, Love and Thunder. And this was also a very exciting thing, because they confirmed, I mean, I don't know how excited I am about Natalie Portman, but they confirmed that Natalie Portman is coming back as Jane Foster, but then they also confirmed that she is going to be Thor.
Yes, I think the only way they were going to get Natalie Portman back is if they were going to give her superpowers.
Right, which, like, good on Natalie Portman for, like, seeing how dope they've made these movies and being like, yeah, I want to come back.
I did cringe when I watched the panel finally, and she like barely says anything and has like sort of a half smirk on her face, and I feel like she on the stage was like, "Oh fuck, what did I get myself into?"
I think
like,
she's
So I think that it could go either way, but I don't know.
Yeah. Which the interesting thing about this too is like the way that the Mighty Thor comic series works is that she is wielding Mjolnir, so she gets to be the Mighty Thor. But with Mjolnir being destroyed,
well, funny,
how is that going to happen?
Funny you should mention that, but what were we just talking about with some of these other shows? And
multiverses!
So I feel like there's a chance that this Natalie Portman, this Jane Foster, is not our Jane Foster and is coming from another Earth. Maybe. I don't know. It's maybe a little bit controversial, but I think that potentially that would be a way that you could get Mjolnir back in our world.
Yep.
And it would be a way to get Natalie Portman in, but also then, I have to go back to my Earth after this. And it's not like you're signing Natalie Portman up for 9 appearances after this.
Well, and I mean, Cap could have just gone back to return like the Infinity Stones, and while he was popping the Aether back into her, he could have just been like, "Here, hold this." And
God, did he have to inject that back into her?
That's the like thing is like, wait, what did he do with that one?
Maybe that. What if he's just like, I'm on a time crunch here. I've got to get this hammer back. Can you just take this here? And like, I don't. Can
you just hold this hammer?
There could be something to that. I don't know, because she's on Asgard, and yeah, I like that. I think.
And to touch on the love part of this title, we've also been told that Tessa Thompson, our Valkyrie, who is now the king of Asgard, or New Asgard, is going to be searching for her queen. So who knows how that's going to happen, but I can't fucking wait.
Yes. Well, do you think that could potentially bring in the Eternals somehow?
Maybe.
Or I don't think that Jane will be her queen. That would be they've already
and there's still too much of like every time Thor mentions Jane, he's like so sad. So like I don't fathom Thor giving that up. I love the line in
Ragnarok when he's taking the selfie on the street, and at the beginning of Ragnarok, and the person says, "Oh, sorry to hear about Jane," and he was like, "Oh," and then Loki says something. He's like, "It was a mutual dumping."
Yeah. Well, and then in like Endgame when he's like crying as he's talking about the Aether, he's like, "Oh, there's Jane." Like,
I think he definitely. I'm excited to have her back in. I know we were not as hot on her during the rewatch of Thor. This will come out before that, I think. But spoiler alert: we were not super jazzed about her role or her
which is just like. It's kind of hard because Natalie Portman is like not a bad actress, and I know she's better than she was in that movie.
It's just that role that she had to portray in those early Thor movies. So I'm excited that she's coming back and is going to get to do something different.
Well, yeah.
And sort of, I think she's going to show up Thor a little bit and be a better Thor than he was, maybe. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, this will be really like... thinking of Natalie Portman roles, like I can't really think of many that she got to be like the really strong, powerful like center of the movie. So this will be cool to like see her doing that.
Yes.
So I have hopes for it, and I do like Natalie Portman. So hopefully breaking her away from the Kenneth Branagh like vapid thing that she was, and then her and Dark World, she wasn't very happy to be there. So now maybe she's happier to be around, likes Taika Waititi a lot.
Yeah, well, it'll be a little bit looser, and there's a little more room for improv and just being a little bit freer, I think, with the interpretation maybe. So, I'm that was definitely the biggest what the fuck moment for me when I saw that, because I literally didn't see that coming. Natalie Portman and fucking Liv Tyler are the two that have sort of been left in the dust, and so I think it's nice that they're tying that thread up
for sure. And so then for the very end of the panel, we went back to that mysterious May 1st, 2020 date.
Yes.
That we kind of all knew about.
Similar to what we touched on it when we were talking about the Phase 3 announcement in a previous episode, where they went back to Captain America to announce Civil War. I think that was nice.
Instead of Serpent Society.
They bring it back to the beginnings, because that's the next thing that you're going to see. That's what they have the most to show you.
Right.
I think it's a cool way to sort of tie everything back around.
So we have our Black Widow reveal, even though we all kind of know that Scarlett Johansson's been filming it for a while.
Yes. We've seen the leaked set photos of her filming.
Right. And so they had like a teaser trailer to show. They've apparently been filming this movie for 30 days, and they confirmed her villain and some other like faces in this movie, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of faces from her past, I think, is
right.
I think what you're going to see, because they say that you're going to see the infamous Budapest event, and I think you're going to see some flashbacks to her time in the I want to say the Red Room. Is that
I think it's the Red Room. That's what it's coming in my head,
with the Russian spy agents and stuff, and then that's going to lead you to the present of the movie, which takes place after Civil War, and some of those characters I think are going to rear their ugly head, and she's going to have to deal with some of that stuff from her past.
Yep. And so they're saying that this movie is going to take place before the events of Infinity War, so it's going to kind of be like a rewind after Endgame and Far From Home,
which we'll see, because this movie comes out before the Bucky and Winter Soldier show, which that takes place in the present, but I do think that is going to there could be things in this movie that set up that movie, because the espionage world in this is very similar, I think, to the tone in the world that you're going to see in that Falcon Winter Soldier show, and there are threads from Civil War with Zemo and everything that are going to get wrapped up in that, so potentially Zemo, maybe he's not going to be in this movie, but I think you could see some other threads that spring off from Black Widow into the other show. Right.
Which the whole like concept of Zemo period is that Black Panther took him and turned him over to like the police instead of letting him kill himself. So it's like, how did he get out of prison to like antagonize Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Sure.
Like we could see a little bit of that.
He's with the CIA, right? At the end of Civil War, they have him in custody.
Yep. But this also, it confirmed Taskmaster.
Yes.
And they confirmed some casting of... so I don't know how to say the other Black Widow's name. Yelena?
Yelena Belova.
Yelena Belova is confirmed to be in this movie. So this could be not only a goodbye to Natasha as Black Widow, but also a way for a new Black Widow in Yelena to come forward for the rest of the MCU.
Yeah, in the clip that you see, or the footage that they showed at the end of this, you see a fight between them, and then they're evenly matched, I guess, in the fight, and you find out at the end that they know each other, and I think she calls Black Widow sister. Yeah, I think the implication there is not that they're blood related, but that either Black Widow's sort of like a big sister, because I think she's a lot younger than Scarlett Johansson, the actress who plays her. What's her name? Pugh?
Florence.
Yeah, Florence Pugh.
Pugh, I think.
So I think it's going to be sort of a big sister, little sister kind of vibe, and she maybe helps her along in her training early on in the Red Room, because they've said that the Red Room, or Black Widow has said that she was trained from a very young age. So I think you could see in one of the flashbacks a younger, still Scarlett Johansson Black Widow, and then like a teen or a young girl Yelena. Yep. And maybe that's their relationship at the beginning, and then they meet back up again when Yelena is now played by Florence Pugh or whatever.
Yeah. And another exciting casting part of this was Rachel Weisz being confirmed to be in this, which I very recently had shown a friend Constantine and was like, Rachel Weisz, I want her in the MCU. I don't know how, but I think she'd be dope. And then this announcement happened, and I was really excited because I think she's awesome.
I like her a lot. Have you seen The Favorite?
Yes.
I love her in that too. I think
she's awesome. So I hope she plays someone that's a little bit more reoccurring than
yeah. Well, and if you're bringing in Yelena more into everything, then I think because she's also, they've said her character is tied into the Red Room and all of that. So David Harbour is playing Mikkel. He came out. David Harbour is Hopper from Stranger Things. He was Hellboy in the really bad recent Hellboy movie. And he came out wearing a Captain America shirt.
He did.
Or a shirt that was like Captain America's uniform or whatever. And he's playing the Red Guardian. And that is another Russian agent, but he's, in the comics, is the Russian version of Captain America. He's someone who has their version of the super soldier serum, but he's sort of, and he says David Harbour says in the panel, because Jessica Chobot makes a comment or asks him if Cap is his favorite character because he's wearing that shirt, and David Harbour says that they have a complicated relationship, and I think that that's hinting at him sort of being the other side of that Cap coin, where he is the Soviet version of that character.
Well, and especially if this movie is taking place post-Infinity War with, like, our Cap on the run as what is effectively the Nomad in that period, like, who knows what could have been, like, showing up that would be, like, the Cap of the rest of the world, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, and I don't know if he's necessarily taking on the mantle, but it's
I know,
yeah, but he's a similar, he's sort of they created him to sort of be their version of Captain America or whatever. So
right.
I think it'll be interesting to see kind of those threads, because even though this takes place before Infinity War, I don't think you're going to see Chris Evans in this. I think potentially you could see Falcon. You're not going to see Bucky because he's still on ice unless you see him in a flashback.
You maybe see Hawkeye in a flashback.
I hope that we see Hawkeye. Hawkeye. I hope that you see Hawkeye in a flash. If they're going to do Budapest, they've set that up that's sort of the turning point in their relationship, and that's he's the one that brings her in and all of that into S.H.I.E.L.D. That if they're going to show that and like then you don't see the resolution of that, or something, I think it'll be weird, especially where Jeremy Renner is still he's got his own show, he's still around. Right. I feel like you need to do that for me to want to see that. It's either do that or don't show it at all, then you know what I mean.
Right.
I will say one last thing is they keep talking about the red in her ledger, and
I'm so sick of that I know. Phrase.
I thought it was an interesting phrase in Avengers, and to describe sort of the bad that she did and how that she needs to clear her conscience, because that's always been her arc. And I think, and one thing that Kevin Feige said in talking about this movie is that it's a prequel, but it's going to inform some things going forward. And I think some of that stuff is going to be sort of the Russian side of things with Yelena, with potentially Red Guardian and Rachel Weisz's character. But I also wonder and I think they've said that this is her sort of finally clearing her conscience, and she's going to take all the skeletons are out of her closet now, and this is her dealing with sort of the last remnants of her past life.
Which also lets her go into Endgame ready to die.
Well, I think that if you look at, and we talked about her hair in Avengers and in Iron Man 2 and sort of how the evolution of that in all the movies, but if you look at it, Civil War, her hair is red. Yeah. Infinity War, her hair is not red. The end of this movie, potentially, she's going to leave, the movie's going to end, and she's going to have closed the book on all of the bad stuff that she did, and she's going to close the book on the Red Room. And whether they meant to or not, I wonder if that was sort of it's maybe a little cheesy, but I think that theme of the red in her ledger now being clear and going into Infinity War, her hair is not red anymore, and then into Endgame, there is more of that guilt cropping up with Clint and with everyone that they lost, and that's the red like creeping back in her hair in Endgame. That I know I'm thinking way too much about her hair, but when that occurred to me, it was kind of, they kept hitting that red in her ledger, and she's gonna finally clear that out or whatever. I feel like that is kind of a cool thematic way to sort of show that to the character, and it's a little surface level. She's like, I'm good, I'm clean now, I'm gonna bleach my hair, like, but I think just from a character standpoint, it's interesting to show that. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely like, we've had Black Widow so much in all of these movies, and she has had a bit of a character arc, but it'll be really interesting to see something much more focused on her.
Yes.
In a way that I think Natasha kind of really deserves, especially after
and
Endgame.
She's been there almost since the beginning. Iron Man 2 is the beginning of the MCU to me. That's where you're laying all the SHIELD track and all the Avengers Initiative track, and that's where the world is expanding into what we have now, really. So we're done, right? The lights. Yeah. So after that was up and
everybody left. It's over. Psych. Kevin Feige kind of like really threw it away at the very end and said something insane like, we don't have time to talk about mutants right now, which
Black Panther 2 will be coming, Captain Marvel 2 coming, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming,
Fantastic Four.
And
he just like threw away, put all this stuff at the very end, which I think sent people even more like fucking foaming at the mouth than they already were.
Well, and I think that is your phase 5 is Black Panther 2, Captain Marvel 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, potentially Fantastic Four, and then they bring the cast of all of the people from all the panels come back out. They're all, or a lot of them are wearing Black Widow hats that they gave to the audience. Which I'm a hat guy, and I gotta scour eBay because I need that Black Widow hat. And they bring them all back out, and they're like, "We're gonna take a photo. Everyone, put your Black Widow hat on." And then Kevin Feige says something, and he's like, "Yeah, and there's someone else here too." And he calls Mahershala Ali out onto the stage.
Yep.
And he comes out.
He's also smiling. Wearing a hat.
Well, no, he comes out and he's holding a hat. And you think that it's the Black Widow hat, and then he puts the hat on, and they zoom in on it, and it does not say Black Widow. What does it say?
It says Blade.
So Natalie Portman as Jane Foster Thor was bonkers. This was like,
this was holy fuck.
Yes, I think, and not that I'm not excited about this, but I was like, this came so out of left field. You've got the multiverse, you've got all of these cosmic things going on, and then you've got a vampire hunter. And
did you hear like one of the post interviews that Kevin Feige gave? He said that Mahershala came to him and said, "I want to do Blade," and he was like,
"That's the only reason.
I'll make it happen."
So and then he said afterwards that that's not coming until it's not going to come out in this crop of films. It'll be out in phase 5. And I wonder potentially if that is going to be a Disney Plus show, just being more street level, that might fit that a little bit more. Did they say specifically that it was going to be a film? Maybe they did. I don't know.
I don't know. Everybody is assuming that it's going to be a feature length Blade. But I don't think that they did anything other than just saying. Yeah, everybody is saying that it's like confirmed as a movie, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So I think Blade obviously is the first big Marvel property that was a smash hit in the late 90s with Wesley Snipes. So it's cool to see them kind of going back and reinventing that character, but
and with a much better actor than Wesley Snipes.
I think. I mean, I like those, at least the first couple Blade movies.
I like the Blade movies a lot, but
especially at the time. I mean, I haven't seen them in years. It might be fun to rewatch those.
Well, and reading about what a nightmare that Wesley Snipes was to work with after the fact also kind of sucks. He was like even worse than you could even imagine him to be.
Well, he didn't pay his taxes, so
but Mahershala Ali is like he's crazy good. He's so good at everything I've seen him in.
Oscar-winning actor. He's amazing, and this, but for me, puts the final nail in the coffin, of the Netflix Marvel shows. Yeah. He was in the Luke Cage show.
He was Iron Fist?
Cottonmouth.
Oh, Cottonmouth.
No, yeah, he was the villain, the early villain in the first season of Luke Cage, and I think those shows, while connected, quote unquote, to the greater MCU, are never referenced in any of the movies. Right. They reference the movies, but the movies never reference them. And some of them are well done. The early Daredevils were great. Punisher, I thought, was good. Jessica Jones, I liked. Iron Fist, not so much. Defenders was not great. But I think that it just cements the fact that, and now that all those shows are canceled, they're done with all of those characters. They're not going to be referenced ever. They're not going to be established. The writers of Endgame at one time made a comment that they had talked about potentially bringing those guys out, the Netflix MCU characters out in the battle at the end. Yep. And that they would be one of the ones one of the groups that came out in the portals. And that they just decided that wouldn't make any sense thematically, and like they really just don't have any connection. There's already
so much going on.
Well, yeah, and they just don't. All of the characters that came out had connections that were built on all of these previous movies, and they didn't do any of that to connect any of those movies. The only character from the TV show that is referenced in any of the movies is Jarvis. At the end of Endgame is Howard's butler. Not the end of Endgame, but he's the when they're in the 70s getting the Pym particles and the Tesseract. But he gets the door for Howard.
He's Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? He's not, or something else. He's not a Netflix show.
Well, no, but I'm more just talking about the Netflix shows were produced by Marvel Television, which produced Agent Carter.
Oh,
I'm just saying any of those shows. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, Runaways, any of the Netflix shows, none of them, other than that one instance where he's the butler, where he's getting the door for her, John Slattery.
But they've said that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. very directly ties into, because they reference the events of the snap.
Well, and I'm saying all the Netflix shows do as well. They reference the Battle of New York as the incident, and they talk about the heroes being in the world, but the movies never reference those. After Coulson died, Coulson is dead to everyone in the movies. Coulson is never brought up. The events in that, all of the crazy make-em-ups that they get into in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are never dealt with in any of the movies after Avengers. So characters from the movies come into those shows. So Nick Fury is in an episode or two of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sif is in an episode or two of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but that's never explored in the movies. Nick Fury is never like, and then Coulson's still alive, guys. Like, I was just like, Coulson knows.
Well, but then the Avengers would just fall
Fury
apart
knows that Coulson's
the backbone.
So I think at this point, those shows to me are they're an alternate Earth. They're in the multiverse. They're not in the main. They're not in the main Marvel universe for the movies. So let's wrap this up here. We've been going longer than we've gone on any other episode.
I am so excited.
So this may be a larger topic, and maybe we need to break this up, but I want to know what you're most excited for. But there's a lot of characters in here that are from other movies that we don't get referenced in this current slate. I'm gonna give you a list of heroes. And I want you to tell me, and I'm sure I'll chime in because I love to talk, if you think that they will show up in any of these movies. So, number one is Hulk.
I think Hulk is probably gone. Okay. I think Hulk could show up in maybe like Loki, but I think that might be it.
So, I wonder, I think you're right, just because they would have announced that Hulk was going to be in these. He's a big enough name that they would have wanted to tell you that he was going to be around. Right. He is in the cast of the What If shows. And if you look at the cast of the What If shows, all of those really are current actors that are in the movie. So all of the cast from Thor is in the What Ifs. Natalie Portman is in the What Ifs. Hawkeye's in the What Ifs. some of the Guardians, but none of the main, like Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Bulky Boy. What's Bulky Boy's name?
Dave Bautista?
Dave Bautista is not in there.
Bulky Boy.
And so I think that is sort of hinting at those people are not in the office at Marvel Studios.
Right.
So, but Mark Ruffalo is in there. So potentially I think you could see him in maybe Doctor Strange. He has a tie to the multiverse in his conversation with the Ancient One. And maybe in Thor, Love and Rockets, Love and Thunder. But
Love and Rockets.
Yes. Other than that, I think you're right. Maybe he might be. We might have to wait till Phase 5. But all right, I'm going to run down this pretty quick here. Guardians of the Galaxy. And
I don't think we're
Rocket.
going to see them at all.
I want to see them with Thor. I think at the very least, I want to see Rocket for a second in the beginning of Thor. But
I mean, it's
think
kind
you're
of
right.
impressive that a Thor movie is coming out before Guardians of the Galaxy,
well, and
since
just
Thor
how
is taking off with them.
Yeah, how closely tied he is to them, especially Rocket. War Machine.
I expect to see him in Falcon and Winter Soldier, honestly.
Yeah.
But I don't know in what else I would fathom him in.
Captain Marvel, I think no, unless
not at all.
Yeah, unless they do a post-credit, some tie-up thing or something. So,
yeah.
Do you think that they're going to set up Blade before Phase 5?
I don't think so. I can't think of any reasonable. Maybe a post-credits thing, like you just said.
Yeah.
But I don't know where it would make sense.
All right, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I don't know. It just feels questionable.
Yeah, I think, and Black Panther's the only other big one. I think that you're gonna have to wait on all those. I
feel like Black Panther could maybe have a little bit of something in Falcon and Winter Soldier, because they could maybe be seeing if Winter Soldier's anti-brainwashing actually worked. So we could have Shuri in that show, but
yeah, that could be interesting, and especially the Zemo tie with T'Challa and all of that. So
I also think Chadwick Boseman wants a rest.
Well, sure, and I think that Wakanda's got a lot of rebuilding to do. That you're not going to see until Black Panther 2. All right, the last one, and then you can go to bed. Is Spider-Man? Are we going to see Spider-Man at all?
That's hard because the whole Sony iffiness.
No, but he was in the Avengers movies and all that.
He was, but
the main thing is just that there are no team up movies in this that I can.
No, I guess the only thing maybe is in Doctor Strange, because I'm assuming it'll take place in New York, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They said in Spider-Man Far From Home that Doctor Strange was unavailable, and I wonder what that meant.
Yeah.
Well,
and I took that more that they were just saying that to shut him up.
Maybe, but he also could be dealing with who knows what.
All right,
Wanda
so I'm going to keep my
mind.
fingers crossed for Doctor Strange that we see Spider-Man for a split second, but I'm not going to hold my breath, I guess. So.
Yeah, that's
all right.
how I'm feeling.
So with that, we'll wrap it up.
Our 2-hour-long episode. But yeah, I'm excited. I don't think that this could come soon enough.
Yeah, well, and I think that, like you said, the possibilities are endless, especially with the multiverse here. So
yeah, I guess we'll see you on our next episode of Marveling.
I'm Tyler.